You're listening to The Great and Secret Knowledge, a speculative fiction podcast. I'm Jeff, and with me is Sophia.
Hello.
Welcome back, Sophia. We are doing another episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. So, we skipped a few episodes to one I really like and one that's kind of important for Star Trek canon. I won't tell you much more than that, but Wesley and the Traveler is sort of an important storyline. What were your overall thoughts going into it? What did you think of it overall?
I liked it. Yeah, I think I can understand why it was important to the overall story, because I felt like there was a lot of, of course, like a lot of revelations, but also it felt like it was pretty dense overall.
I'm glad you liked it. I really love it. This one, some people think is forgettable. I don't know why exactly, but maybe they don't like Wesley, or maybe they don't like the effects. Kaczynski was kind of a big performance. But for a season 1 episode, I feel like it really stands together well.
I forgot, who is Kaczynski again?
He's the mad scientist.
Yeah.
The guy who nobody trusts. Total dickhead.
Yeah, maybe it depends also, because for me it was very exciting because I was really into the mystery of it. It's like, oh, what are they gonna do? And not that I expected to be able to guess, but I thought it's always fun in a sort of a meta-analysis to see what kind of concepts they're going to use. So I thought it was like, oh, is this like some kind of like hallucination, or I was wondering about the other ships that also had their engines improved. I was like, maybe they weren't really improved. Maybe they were just hallucinating that they were going fast, and it's all some kind of a fake reality or something. So I went all around in my theories.
Oh, I love that when you're having theories as the episode goes. This one is very mysterious in that way. Like, I found myself being like, why is Riker acting like a dick? And like what's up with this Kaczynski guy? Yeah, I was all over the place.
Yeah, and I like the way they were structured. Like, for example, in one scene, just cut these guys playing violin. And there's like, at first, there's no explanations. It's like, here's some 1700 guys playing violin. And then you see the other guy that is in it. And then you understand that it's also part of the hallucination. But I think that's fun. It's like so out of there.
Well, yeah, and you saw Encounter at Farpoint when we learn about the holodeck. So when I first saw that scene, I was like, oh, he's just in the holodeck playing with some 18th century guys or whatever, doing some Mozart or...
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Was that Mozart? I didn't
think to check at all. It could be, I suppose. I don't know how much he made of this kind of... what do you call it?
String quartets.
Yeah, but it wasn't a quartet, right? There were 3, I think. So I was trying to think of what it's called in English, but I don't know.
But see, I could jump ahead to that scene.
Yeah, you can check how many. Maybe there were 3 plus the Star Trek guy. But I was thinking that it was. I was also thinking the holodeck, but it wasn't until I saw the guy. At first, I was like, you only see the old-timey people, and then you're just like, oh wait, what happened now? I was thinking maybe someone was watching it in some kind of screen. And that's also
Sorry,
interesting, though, with the
I
holodeck.
forgot to mute that.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say the holodeck is, I don't even know, like, if there can be other people that it generates, because if so, it's interesting to imagine what kind of fantasies people could make if it's like, oh, also make people, and they can act as I want them to.
Yes. Yeah, I guess when we saw the holodeck in Farpoint, it was just Data by himself. But yes, it populates the environment with characters. So they're either sort of like AI generated, like what we think would be in the setting or what we think the player might want to interact with. But if it's a holo novel, which we got in maybe next episode or the one after that, the characters kind of follow set tracks. The main NPCs, non-player characters. So it's much more focused. But we get both kinds. But yeah, I'm looking at the scene here, and it looks like he had 3 old-timey guys with him. So it was a quartet.
Yeah. Would you want to, if there was this kind of holodeck, would you want to watch a movie in the holodeck? Or would you be like, oh, I want it from the screen?
Well, younger me would absolutely have wasted hours and hours playing video games on the TV, or holo novels, which are basically live action video games.
I thought maybe you were just watching it as the person in it.
Oh, I think you're allowed to do that, but most people kind of pick a character and take part. One player is the main character. Like Picard plays a detective called Dixon Hill. In Voyager, we see kids' stories with Flotter and the tree guy, whatever his name is, but it's like for kids, but the adults have to go into it to solve some problem or whatever. And so they're seeing these kids' characters from their childhoods. Which doesn't really add up timeline-wise, because like Janeway's 40 or something, and she claims she played with Flotter when she was a kid, but the holodeck didn't become popular until like after Star Trek The Next Generation started. So my headcanon is that before fully realized holodecks, they had holo novels like that are less interactive or something.
Yeah, or could it have been that she was more like interacting with a screen, maybe? That it was like, oh, look at this picture, and there's like, talk to this character, so playing in that way and not fully immersed.
Yeah. Another interesting thing about the holodeck is in the Star Trek animated series, which lasted a couple years in the 70s, they found that tech, but it was just for atmosphere and like vistas. It wasn't interactive really, and it didn't create people. But I'm assuming headcanon wise that was developed into what they have later.
So is the holodeck then? I'm trying to think, since now we're talking about AI art and this kind of thing in our contemporary world. So is the holodeck then? How to explain? If there are narratives in the holodeck, do you think the characters are portrayed by actors, or is it like generated by the computer?
I think it goes either way. The holo novels are written by people, at least part of it, some of the narratives and stuff, and whatever they don't write, the computer fills in. There's this great episode of Lower Decks where Boimler writes a movie for everyone to play in, but then he's disillusioned and is like trying to find meaning in the bogus side characters. And his friend Mariner is like, this is just AI bullshit. Like, you won't learn anything. What are you doing? You're wasting our time. And then he does eventually have some kind of revelation.
But I mean, then if for example, if someone is playing in this movie and all of the other characters are not people, but just the written characters, then they are just like generated by the AI. So there's not like an actual person playing this character,
Right.
that was ever recorded.
Right. It's like a computer.
That could create some moral dilemmas, since we're talking about this today. Like, is it like the same kind of art, I guess?
Oh, about them sweeping up other people's art. Well, that's the thing. They're in a utopian socialist future. So copyright laws aren't a problem. I think it's almost like out of respect for the creator, they respect their work and don't change it. But everybody steals from everybody. Like if it was realistic in the 24th century, they'd be playing Star Wars and like new shit to us anyway.
Yeah.
But they have to use like old timey stuff because of our copyright laws. So they use like Sherlock Holmes and detective novels and things.
Oh yeah.
Now, if we're talking about sentient AI, that actually does happen in a few Star Trek episodes, and they have to do something with these sentient holograms because it would be wrong to just leave them in there, in perpetual slavery.
Yeah.
So anyway, that wasn't a holodeck. It was just a fantasy.
Yes. Talk about that. One thing that I noticed at the very start is that they talk about the log, and they say like it's Stardate 4126.3.81. And I was confused. Do you know what this measurement is for? I was calculating. It means like 130 years if it's that many days.
This is the most egregious thing in all of Star Trek. Roddenberry didn't set a specific way that the star dates should be listed, so every writer did it differently in the original Star Trek. So it's all out of order. It's impossible to make sense of. My headcanon is that it's all based on their distance from a particular star at any given point. so like if they're in X galaxy, it'll be wildly different or not galaxy, solar system, stellar system. Anyway, it'll be anytime I talk sci-fi, I'm like tangenting all over the place. But so maybe it's something rotational about the galaxy or whatever. But there really is no rhyme or reason. I think somebody in Next Generation or maybe later tried to say, okay, the only thing that's consistent is that like the last number has to be consecutive or something silly like that.
It would be funny if it was just a way to show like, oh, these are so advanced from us. We don't even understand their timekeeping.
Yes. I mean, like a lot of Federation tech, they got like it existed before or it was developed by one of the other member species. So yeah, we can just hand wave. Star dates are invented in relation to the galactic center or whatever.
I like to think that there was something happening. I mean, I guess it doesn't work because you say there are different times at different episodes. But if it was from this one, there was like 113 years in Earth years. I like to think that there was some event at this time. And then they're like, this is going to be our timekeeping from this day.
Yeah, maybe when they started the Federation, like in 2190 or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it could be.
I don't know if that's the right date. That was an approximate
I wouldn't know
guess.
Either.
Let's see. The first moment I wanted to soundbite was when Riker and Troy meet Kaczynski in the transporter pad. She's Betazoid, so he's like, what are your impressions of this guy? And she's like, something's wrong here. Let me go to the quote. So he's a dick and he leaves the transporter bay. And she's like, well, he's very sure of himself. And then Riker asks about the assistant. She's like, he's puzzling. I can't feel anything from him.
Oh yeah, that she feels all of the. She always feels something from every life form, even if she doesn't understand it. But he's just a void.
Indeed.
With most life forms, I can usually feel something. I may not be able to understand or interpret it, but I feel something, if only a presence. With him, nothing. Empty space. It's as though he isn't even here. Something about this concerns me. I don't know what. I can point to no reason yet.
Stay concerned, please. The safety of the Enterprise may be entrusted to these two.
And then Riker says, "Stay concerned, please. The safety of the Enterprise may be entrusted to these two."
Yeah, I like this idea that he's like, oh, you can just stay suspicious. But it was funny in the start where Picard was so aggressive about it. He was like, why are you suspicious? Rah! And I don't really get why.
Yeah, in season 1, we're still sussing out everybody's relationships. Like, Picard seems really hard-edged. Riker is, like, totally biased against this Kaczynski guy. Sight unseen, just on reports he's read. But he doesn't explain why to the captain. Like, it's... Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, and I feel I can understand why it's like a way to make the exposition where they take different sides, but it felt very adversary between them.
Yeah.
Rather than just being like a discussion.
One of Roddenberry's rules for when they brought the show back was that the crew won't conflict with one another. And so I think that's why they heighten up the reactions to other Starfleets that they run into, like this guy or the admirals. It's like their opportunity to do normal TV show shit, which is drama between characters.
Ah, okay. So they said that they were not, like, in which way were they not allowed to conflict? Was it like they're not allowed to have some kind of civil war, or just they're not allowed to?
No, he said personality conflicts of any kind. So, like, if one character was attracted to one's girlfriend, like, they couldn't fight about it. They had to have, like, utopian society evolved values.
But I feel like they fight a little bit. You know, they do have some conflict, but I understand it can't go maybe too high. It has to be just like a little bit of tension or something.
Yeah. And so that set like this standard of hyper competent space people getting along, solving problems, which has stood all the series in good stead. But over time, they've relaxed those rules a little bit. And the shows are more dramatic for it.
It is interesting the way to set these kind of rules, you know, that goes against normal storytelling.
Yeah, it's unusual in the annals of television history, like putting any limitation on conflict. Like, I think last time we talked about The Expanse and how the TV show is much more conflict oriented than the books. And that's just how we do TV now. Like, you know, and especially because we don't have the quiet interior moments to get to know the characters. Because there's fewer episodes, like it's not a book, obviously. Yeah. I was doing this thing with my hands and I realized Donald Trump does it and I got like really insecure all of a sudden. What are my notes here? So Riker starts off real itchy. He tells Troy to keep an eye on this guy. So we go to engineering where Kaczynski and Riker and Chief Engineer Argyle are talking about the process. And Kaczynski is making no sense. Now, you don't know Star Trek, what's it called? Technobabble yet. Like what makes sense and what doesn't. And I think most viewers at this point in the show were like, well, he sounds just like a space person saying space stuff. But after you've seen all the shows, like you're like, oh, he is just saying total nonsense. And if the chief engineer can't understand it, it's probably not real.
Yeah, I wasn't sure because I wasn't. it could have been that he was so advanced that everybody was like, oh, I don't understand it. And it's like, oh, it's because it's so complicated that it's beyond your abilities.
Yeah, and that's not really how science or engineering is meant to work.
I guess not.
You're supposed to be able to show your steps.
But he was not a teacher, he said. So it could be that he was just bad at explaining it.
That was a neat little rhetorical trick there. Because it does allow like a little wiggle room for the viewer to be like, what? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it worked some... I guess I thought that he was trying to somehow destroy the engine. I didn't really expect what was really happening.
Oh, like you really thought he was a saboteur?
Yeah, I assumed so, just because that was their suspicion. So I thought, oh, he's going to bring out some computer virus or something to their engine. But I wasn't sure why. So
yeah. So he says something about perhaps I should speak to Captain Picard, and Riker is like, if you like, it won't change anything.
Perhaps I should speak to Captain Picard.
If you like, it won't change anything.
I'll drop this soundbite in there, but I just love that Riker, this early in the show, knows that Captain Picard's orders stand and that he can trust the captain not to go against that order, or to supersede his first officer. I like that show of being simpatico.
Yeah, I agree. He knows that he will be consistent. He's not going to change his mind and be like, I want something else now.
Which, that's a theme that lasts all the way to the end of the episode. I'll bring it up at the end, but the idea that he can't countermand his own orders.
I was thinking about the second guy, the alien guy that shows up, because when he first materialized, I was not sure what to make of him, because when he first arrives, he looks like he has kind of a shaved head, and he has this like striped uniform, so he looks like a prisoner of some kind. I was like, what? This guy is bringing this like thin, shaved head prisoner with him, and I thought maybe he was somehow kept against his will or something.
That might have been another red herring that they were dangling for us, like, maybe this guy's being exploited.
Yeah, I think that could have been intentional, because you see him being very frail, and then at the end he's just like, I wanted to tag along, and I was playing along with this other guy, so he was really the mastermind behind it.
Yeah, such a sweet little mastermind.
Yeah.
He was so gentle.
And he says that he was from Tau Alpha Z or something like that, or C, I don't know. And it doesn't seem like that's a real star. I was trying to...
like you checked the star maps?
I was trying to just search for it and see, like, what is this star in our star system? But it didn't turn up. First, I got a lot of sororities at different, like, students.
Totally.
And I also thought maybe he was an android, just because Troy couldn't feel anything from him.
Oh, yeah, that would have made a lot of sense. I was thinking, like, it wouldn't work for the episode as written, but I was thinking, at least in later episodes, the captain would have been like, Data, go with them, because Data knows pretty much everything and has some form of imagination. He could probably have guessed what the Traveler is before anybody did. So they kept him on the bridge. I think that's my theory.
To keep him off from being too effective. But maybe they needed him to. He seems to have some kind of navigational role there, so maybe he needs to be there.
He's head of ops on the bridge, so yeah, he's very, very, what's the word? Essential at all times.
But if he's a computer or an android, can he like plug into the Wi-Fi and be at the bridge, even if it's another part of the ship?
They don't do much with that, but yes, of course, he could sync with the computer. I think in 1 or 2 episodes he does sync with the computer, but I'm almost wondering if the Federation has rules against it, because nobody likes it when it happens.
Yeah,
like maybe you're not allowed to network with the computer. Let's see. I wrote, this dude is so aggro, Kaczynski.
Yeah. I was trying to think of which word to use because I keep wanting to use dryg, which I brought up earlier in another podcast that we had. But
Yeah.
I guess he's like hardy, maybe, if it was an English word. But he is also being, he's like being kind of obtuse about it. When they confront him, he's like, oh, whatever do you mean? Whoa.
So the Traveler and Wesley are just vibing. Like, they seem to connect on this deep level. Again, we don't know what the technobabble is doing or what these awesome visuals on the screen are all about.
Looks like some kind of ribbons just going around.
Yeah, like I think we know at this point that starships create a warp bubble that like essentially folds space, so they're not actually moving anywhere. They're sort of being drawn through. And so the picture seems to have like that happening front to back, and then this whole big ribbon comes around and fills it in from the side. Very cool looking. But right after they work together to create that, Kaczynski looks over at the Traveler and he's like, boy, don't touch that. They call Wesley the boy several times in this episode.
Don't talk about me in the third person as if I'm not standing right here.
Yes, you might as well let him try.
Oh, yes, we might as well let him try it. You are too generous. Boy! Don't play with that.
Yeah, and when he corrects them, they're just like, we know your name.
Did you notice him push Riker out of his way when he walked around? It's at 8:33 on the episode. But he just like pushes his stomach back so he can get around the desk while he's giving his bullshit rant.
No, I didn't notice that. But I can imagine
Riker's
it.
so fucking pissed. It's like he's just seething, trying not to punch the guy. But yeah, when he says, boy, don't play with that, the Traveler makes this really cute face. So funny.
And it's also interesting that you see the Traveler early on. I don't know when he first flickers, but it feels like it was very early. But maybe it was just on that test thing. And I was thinking maybe he was not there. It was he himself was some kind of hologram.
Oh, like he's being projected from somewhere else?
Yeah, I thought maybe so.
Interesting. Next up, we go up to the bridge. I noticed Geordi LaForge, the guy with the visor, he's still up on the con. Later episodes, he becomes chief engineer. So I don't know why my theory is that he's working the helm because he's doing command training. And in command training, they send you to each department over time. So you kind of learn all functions of the ship. And that's why he has a red shirt. Those are command people like Riker and Picard. But anyway, he becomes chief engineer later. I wrote that warp core looks so good and sounds so sexy. I don't know what I meant by that.
I was thinking, when they did the first run, I thought that maybe Wesley somehow fucked it up because he was giving input, and then they ended up in the wrong place. And I thought maybe it was him that entered in the wrong coordinates.
Yeah, Kaczynski's like, what are you doing? And the Traveler gets all worried. And that's when he starts to phase out.
Yeah. Did we get... Oh, and also when he hits his head on the wall and he seems like confused. Like, why is there a wall here? And I thought maybe that's why he was not really there. He was like not used to being solid, and hitting walls.
I like that. Yeah, so the warp core sounds all awesome and then it blinks out. Let's see. Oh, I wrote the music is so good. I have a sound bite at 10:40-ish. The warp sound is so dope. And somebody goes, Captain, we're passing warp 10.
Captain, we're passing Warp 10.
There is an episode in Voyager where they try to pass Warp 10. It's for some reason they decided that at that point that Warp 10 is the highest you can go. And it ends up with 2 members of the crew turning into these giant salamanders. So obviously canon shifts a little bit over time.
Did they ever turn back?
Spoiler.
Okay,
Yeah.
I will not know. I just thought it would be funny if they were still salamanders and they were just around like that. Sounds like some kind of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's like we're moving with this randomness drive that turns people into salamanders.
If you want to learn more about it, type "What happened to Paris and Janeway's babies?" Oh shit.
Yeah.
So they have to reverse their engines during the test because obviously something's going wrong.
But I was thinking also when they were traveling, with the 10, I wasn't sure if they were going to be able to stop, and it made me think of the novel Tau Zero, I think it's called, by Paul Anderson. Have you read that one?
No, I've only read 1 or 2 Paul Andersons, although I did just buy a few at a bookstore. I don't know if it's one of them.
Yeah, you'll have to see. But I really like that one. It's very interesting. It's like if anyone is interested in a story where they travel really fast and they have many complications from that, and also some weird relationships between the crew. But it's I think it was an interesting concept.
Cool. So the traveler's getting all sweaty. They're doing the thing, and then Captain says reverse engines. So I put a soundbite in here. It's around 11:30. Captain, no one has reversed engines at this velocity. And he's like, nobody's ever gone this fast. Do it. Or something to that effect.
Yeah.
Reverse engines.
Captain, no one has ever reversed engines at this velocity.
Because no one has gone this fast.
Somehow they've left the Milky Way and zapped past 2 other galaxies to a 4th. And it'll take them 300 years or so to get home.
Do you think that this is... I couldn't tell, is this the first time anyone was outside of the galaxy? Or is it just... it would take longer normally?
Well, not the first time, because Kirk and his friends, I think, went outside the galaxy once or more. But certainly the first for these characters, and I think most humans. Probably the first time on the show, unless Q sucked them to another galaxy. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Depends on how you count it, maybe. The new guy is so happy about this. He's just like gleeful. He's like, Yeah.
Oh yeah, he has no chill. He's just like, hey, it worked.
Yeah.
Really good.
I thought he would be more, embarrassed that maybe he failed or something, but he's like super happy about it.
Yeah, I think if he was a normal scientist or engineer, he would be. But this guy is just all up his own butt.
Yeah. Maybe that's why he's been useful to the Traveler, because whatever happens, he's just like, yes, I'm so pleased with this. So he's very good at rolling with whatever.
That's a great point. So there's this gorgeous space painting on the viewer. I had to screenshot it. Maybe I'll use it as a wallpaper or something. Looks just fucking fantastic. All these galaxies sort of floating relative to each other, which in space, everything's super far away from each other. But in Star Trek, they jam it all together for looks. And honestly, most sci-fi shows.
Yeah.
My headcanon for that is that it's really the computer stuffing them all together relative to one another, just to so they can get all the information on the screen at once.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, because it's not like it is a window. It shows different things, so it could just be a screen. And it seems like they are using this kind of visual information a lot. Everything is, there's not like a lot of numbers. It's just like this kind of visuals. So maybe they have, it would make sense that they would show different kind of visuals that communicate what they need to assess.
Yeah, and on the screens in front of them, that might be where it's saying this is X million kilometers apart. Or
Oh
whatever.
yeah, that's true. That could make sense.
So that space painting, my brother had one like this. It's just gorgeous with the Enterprise D like floating among this. We had it in our bedroom.
Mm.
He got it at his first Star Trek convention. Next, Kaczynski is just blathering that like sci-fi nonsense on the bridge.
As the power grew, I applied the energy asymptomatically. I anticipated some tilling, but it didn't occur. Now, that was my error, using the bezel functions at the beginning.
What is he saying, number one? To tell the truth, sir, it sounds like nonsense to me.
And he's like, let's do it again. Let's go back. And Wesley comes in. He's concerned for the Traveler's health, which I thought was really cute. Let's see. The Traveler does not want Wesley to share that he understands that like life is about space, time, and thought.
Mm.
Like, Traveler's like, don't tell anybody that. Like, it's this deep universal secret. Whereas in our real life, it's just a thing cult leaders say to like, keep their followers on the reservation.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to bring in a sci-fi story because it feels more like a fantasy thing. It's like the thought, you can do magic and different things affect reality.
Yeah.
But I think that this thought thing it used to be kind of a science, like at least from what I heard is that in early stories, when they had a lot of telepaths, the reason was that people expected that telepathy is possible. So they were like, oh, this is going to happen in the future. Like if you go back far enough, then that was considered something that was as real as flying cars or something like that.
Yeah, they unless there's a vast conspiracy to hide the data, telepathy just isn't statistically possible at this point. But yeah, it was right around the corner, just like space stations and yeah, faster than light communication and all that.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was really the sense, at this time, but I think that's where this tradition of telepathy and this kind of things, and I suppose this kind of thoughts affecting reality, maybe it comes from this, that's why it's considered, more sci-fi than some other concepts, I assume.
I mean, honestly, Star Trek is more of a fantasy show than like hard science fiction.
Mm.
But they thread the line enough that I think both sci-fi and fantasy fans can enjoy it.
But what is the hard science TV shows then? Are there any? I mean, like nowadays maybe, but like in classic.
God, I haven't seen much classic sci-fi TV. So much of it was just like schlock. I've never seen Lost in Space. So yeah, I couldn't say. There was Battlestar Galactica was before this, but I only saw a few episodes of that.
Yeah.
Oh, Buck Rogers, of course. But yeah, I think telepathy was popular. I mean, transporters violate the laws of physics. They have to have something called a Heisenberg compensator to make it work, which is basically just a reality-defying thing.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they're not hard sci-fi. I agree, but I think sometimes people bring up Star Trek as being sci-fi while Star Wars is more fantasy. So then it's a question like, what would be then the more sciencey science fiction? If both of these, Star Wars and Star Trek are not really that scientific.
I almost think of it as like a spectrum. Like Star Trek's maybe 40% fantasy, 60% sci-fi, and Star Wars is like 10% sci-fi, like it's more about swords and wizards than specific space combat rules or whatever.
And maybe the stuff that is scientific with Star Trek is maybe stuff that we more take for granted, like there is some different technologies and stuff in their everyday life that would later developed because it was shown in Star Trek. Like I was thinking about, wasn't it
like
touch
the communicators
and
became cell phones? Yes, touch screens for sure.
Yeah, so that one is much more, scientific because it is really future technology at this time, but we don't really think about it because it seems like more normal for us.
Yeah. The Expanse now does holographic interfaces for their cell phones.
Yeah.
Like that'll probably become true at some point.
Maybe, but it seems like in some of them they have to wave their arms around a lot, and I think that would be bad for the neck and shoulders. You would get tired.
Oh yeah, no, you gotta make those movements less. I mean, it's like sci-fi guns, right? Sci-fi guns, they're always fiddling with them, but the gun is like just works better. The shape of the handle, the trigger, cocking it, like it that's how crossbows worked. Like clearly there's a reason why we do it that way. So doing it a different way means more weight on your elbow or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's because like guns are boring and kind of upsetting. So like, you want to jazz them up in your stories.
Yeah, do something different. I was thinking here in the story is that they say something about it would take 51 years for a message to get back, and I was unsure. Why is that? That doesn't make sense.
Okay, so in Federation space, they have these things called subspace beacons that send all that information to other planets at like faster than light speeds. But once you leave that area, you're relying on slower than light communication until it hits one of those beacons. So I assume what that means is it takes 50 years for it to hit the furthest beacon and then is bounced back to Starfleet.
Yeah, so maybe they have some kind of beacons out in other galaxies because then they would be able to.
They're 4 galaxies away or 3 galaxies away. There would be no beacon. So
maybe they have some kind of beacon in the ship, so that they can start descending somehow.
Yeah. I don't know. Oh, maybe they'd send a probe, a warp-capable probe that would... Because if there's no beacons, there's no way that 50 years is enough time for slower than light. Or, I mean, I guess information goes at exactly light. So, like, that's only 50 light years. They're millions of light years away.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Yeah. Let's see here. That's, again, fantasy rules. We're not going to focus too heavily on the specifics there. It's somewhere around 20 minutes in, there's just these dope ass sounds, and they find themselves in a very unique place that looks like they're inside an iceberg, and there's like will-o'-the-wisps flying around. So cool.
All stop.
Answering all stop, Captain.
Oh, so I noticed that Wesley is so tender with the Traveler, especially once he starts getting ill.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if he gets that from his mother, who's not just a doctor, but her bedside manner is like really warm and approachable.
Yeah, that could be. I was confused about Wesley, though, in this episode because he's around all the time, and I'm not sure if that was something introduced in a previous episode or why because he's like hanging around at this, when they're doing this kind of engineering stuff, and I'm like, after a while, I was like, wait, why is he here again?
Yeah, without Starfleet training, it's hard to know how you could know all the safety regs. And like he's not even in a official uniform. He's got these big sweaters that could snag on things.
Yeah, that's true.
Probably wouldn't be allowed in our military, but they're letting him walk around. Yeah, and I don't know if there was stuff in those other 4 episodes.
Yeah, for me, I can headcanon it as that, as Riker being like, oh, you can hang around, and then Picard is like,
Traveler
no.
seems to like you.
Yeah.
So once they come to this unreality place, it's like the power of thought that becomes like manifest for everyone, not just the Traveler. Worf sees his old pet, which is a targ, which I think is just a pig with spikes coming out of its back.
Yeah. And I like the idea that, so he was thinking about his pet, and that's why it showed up, because all the other ones, they were thinking about something. So that's cute that he was just like, oh, my pet. Like, I was thinking about you.
Yeah. And then Tasha gets a kitty cat. And before I talk about what her flashback is, I need to go to the restroom really quick. I'll be right back.
All right.
Okay, I'm back.
I was going to say, before we talk about the holograms or hallucinations, I just wanted to say that I actually like the effect, when they travel to that thought place, because I enjoyed when the image was all shaky.
The image of the blue place, or like their trip on the way there?
The trip on the way there.
It looks so rad. I think these might be updated effects because they look just pristine.
Yeah, and I like that it was like layered double, and then they're also moving while this is happening. So it's like you kind of get it as this is their perspective on it, and they're reacting to it.
There's like lens flare coming off Geordi and Data, like you say, doubling, like their faces are kind of doubling on each other as they shift between frames. All that purple and red, blue. There's an episode of Star Trek Prodigy that there's a moment like that is just, anytime you get a new special effect, it's like, it's so sweet. On that trip, once they get there, Data's like, hey, as long as we're here, maybe we should do some science. And
is that at this time? I thought it was before the thought. I think that they were, they were in that other galaxy, and that's when Data said, oh, there's a new star being born. But I wanted to also comment on that, because Picard looked really happy. It's like, yes. And it's like, no, we should go back. So I like that.
There was a moment I jumped past, which was when Wesley tries to tell Riker about the Traveler's phasing. And Riker's just like, I got no time for you. So that comes back a little bit later.
Yeah.
We may want to just rush past this, but Tasha gets Picard almost falls out of a door into open space, which was pretty rad. And then Tasha gets this kitty cat, and we get this flashback back to her childhood, her life before being rescued by Starfleet. It was the 80s, sexual assault. Like, you couldn't wave a stick around without running into a storyline on any given show. And they just barely touch on it and then move right past it. But unfortunately, what that means is now the term rape gangs is cemented in Star Trek lore. Oh, boy. So it must have been a non-Federation colony where social order had broken down. But some dark implications. Next, we got the dudes playing violins. There's a lady doing ballet in the cargo bay.
Yeah. So it's interesting that it's not just a visual hallucination. It's like they are also caught up in it. So that's different from seeing it.
Like seeing Picard overwhelmed by terror. Like, even when crazy stuff is going on, he doesn't have that reaction. So yeah, clearly their thoughts are being amplified, or their feelings rather.
Yeah, it seems so. And they kind of accept the different things that are going on. But I think once they are shown that actually there's some kind of, Like if they know that there's some kind of manipulation, then they can be aware of it. But before that, it seems like they're just like, oh, I'm a ballet dancer, I'm a violinist.
Picard sees his mom, or maybe his grandma. I'm not sure which.
I think it was his mom, because I think he
Calls
called
her
her like,
Maman.
yeah, I think that's like French for mom, but I might misremember.
It's a little confusing because we learn in Star Trek Picard that his mom died young, and this is an old lady. So that's why I was a little confused.
Yeah, but maybe it could be like, in this story, they show if she's alive, you know, so it's like, how old would she be if she was still alive?
Oh.
So that could work if it's like emotional, you know, he's getting into the emotion of it, so he accepts this.
I've heard people in stories like imagine some kid who had died, but they're grown up, like in What Dreams May Come. Robin Williams' son pretended to be a different, older person. So yeah, maybe she's old in this, but not in reality. She's offering him tea, and then Riker shows up, and he's like, "What's wrong with Picard?" Like he's all looking at nothing.
Captain, you were reported headed for...
Just a moment, number one.
And at about 25:30, Picard says, "Just a moment, number one." And he still takes this while to get centered. And I'm just thinking he's trying not to cry in front of his crew.
Mm.
And that's why it's taking him so long to get his shit together. I guess it's closer to 26. And he says, "Do you need help, sir?" And Picard's like, "No, we all do." And he calls a red alert. So he goes to sickbay, talks to the crew on the intercom, and he's like, "We must begin controlling our thoughts."
Is this also when he questions why Wes is there? And I'm like, yes, finally.
Yes. And Riker's like, "Yeah, I called out." He's like, "Yeah, actually, Wesley noticed something was wrong with the Traveler, and I didn't listen to him." I really like that moment. I think that's part of the journey of Wesley to like get respect. Because until you have respect of your crew, you shouldn't be there. Right?
Yeah. And Wesley didn't say anything. So that was also, I think, also a conscious thing that he didn't say like, "Oh, I did try to tell him."
But it gives us another boy moment when Picard is like, "What is the boy doing here?"
Is he gonna be all right?
What is the boy doing here?
Mom.
They dose the Traveler awake because Picard needs to question him. And we find out that the Traveler's been trading his gift to bum rides around the galaxy. It's super Hitchhiker's Guide coded there, with Ford just jumping on other species' ships.
That's true. I didn't think of that.
Let's see, about 32 minutes here.
But what got us here? Thought.
You do understand, don't you, that thought is the basis of all reality. The energy of thought, to put it in your terms, is very powerful.
Wes is sticking up for the Traveler, and he says something about he is a lens to focus thought, the Traveler is. And that's where we kind of start to realize, oh, the only way we're going to get back is if the Traveler is alive and if he can focus all of our thoughts into getting home. Especially because this place they're at now, like, thoughts seem to be more powerful.
Yeah. And I wasn't sure if that was the case, because I was still wondering about Wesley doing something in the original travel. And I thought, maybe it was Wesley that made them come, that far, and that maybe the Traveler would die and Wesley would be like, "I know what he did. I will do the same thing."
I was thinking that too. Like, he was going to have to take over. Like, people call Wesley a Mary Sue, but like that would have been next level, right?
Yeah. I think I just misunderstood it.
That'd be like Ray healing the snake in episode in the first movie instead of the third. I hate that movie. I didn't finish it, but yeah, I saw that bit. But yeah, to do that in this early in the show, like, would have been, I think, too much.
I think I misunderstood also what they were portraying, because it really did seem like Wesley did a lot in the screen, you know, but I think that we're meant to understand that he was more of a that it wasn't really the crucial thing that affected it.
Yeah.
So I don't think that he was the one that made it happen. But do we know why? Like, because the traveler said, like, oh, I didn't calculate for everything or something like that. Do we know why it went wrong?
No, I don't think we ever learn what went wrong. And it may just be because the traveler was tired. I don't know.
Could be.
I should have given him some time.
Yeah, it could have been, actually. Because he seemed a little bit more kind of like, oh, I made a mistake. So yeah, maybe it was like you said, he somehow made a mistake from just his own abilities or something.
Riker's like, how come we have no record of you visiting before? And he's like, well, to be honest, humans weren't that interesting. And I have to say, after years of Star Trek, including prequels now, it seems unlikely that they weren't interesting enough. Like, fucking in Discovery, they fight off a galaxy-threatening AI threat. Right. That wasn't interesting enough.
Is that earlier, or I don't understand the timeline?
It takes place before the original Star Trek.
Ah, okay.
So it seems unlikely.
But that's always the difficulty, you know, when you have these kind of stories, because you want the main characters to be, you know, important in the grand scale of things, but it also can seem a little bit strange that it's like, why is everything happening to you? Why are you so important in this whole universe?
Well, and it makes me think it does open out the scope of Star Trek, because it allows any new part of the time period after this to be way more interesting, right? To be enough for the traveler to take interest. And then there's all the other dimensions that he goes to. Maybe those are way more interesting than ours.
Yeah, and maybe it's just his taste, you know, maybe they're like interested only in very specific things and they don't care about fighting AIs or something.
Yeah, I get the sense that he came here essentially to find Wesley or someone like him. He almost says as much.
Yeah.
He's talking to Picard, and he's like, you need to let Wes grow and not interfere with his progress.
Mm. Yeah, and I think maybe it could have been that the reason that he made a mistake, that he was somehow distracted by Wes in some way, like because he was like, oh, this, like he was assessing him or something, and then he maybe lost focus.
Yeah, maybe even travelers can't multitask.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like, you know, with the thoughts and everything, like maybe it's difficult if you meet someone with similar ability, maybe it interferes somehow.
Yeah, he should have been like, hey, gang, I got to take a break. We should wait a few hours until I've had a chance to talk to this child prodigy.
Probably.
So the traveler is super sweaty in this scene. And yeah, his outfit in this shot really does give the impression of a Holocaust captive. They had the straight up and down black stripes on white.
Yeah.
Or gray. So yeah, he's like, Wes should be encouraged, but told none of this.
Put it out! How? Think! Put the flame out in your thoughts!
And then Picard finds this guy being menaced by fire, and he's like, put the flame out with your thoughts! Oh, it's so cool.
That could be, you know, imagine if you stay there. Like, do you think that they could be damaged? I assume maybe they could be. Like, could they be physically damaged by these thoughts?
In this thought realm?
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, it looks like the inside of an iceberg, which is a very dangerous place to be.
Yeah.
But it didn't look wet. I mean, I don't know how you could tell, but it really gave the sense of like under an iceberg with like fish flying around or something.
Yeah, because what I was thinking was that if they have all these kind of thoughts that manifest, it could be a really good, I could see it being some kind of spiritual training where you go to this place and then you have to learn to control your thoughts, and you get really good feedback, if you do it wrong. So then
maybe travelers intentionally go here to train themselves.
Yeah, I think so.
And so when he fucked up, it just like defaulted to this area.
Yeah, that could be. Maybe they live there or like have some kind of base there.
Yeah. So the captain talks to Yar and Troy and then the full crew. And he's like, he wants them to give their strength to the traveler, to keep their thoughts focused on the traveler to help him fly. But I had a thought during his speech. I was like, he should record self-help tapes. Like, he's got such this warm gravitas.
And now, attempt to concentrate completely on your duty of the moment, or on the traveler, on his well-being. Think of him as someone you care deeply for.
While he's giving that speech, we get the briefest glimpse of like a blonde lady in the corridor, and walking by her is a gentleman in a miniskirt. We saw one of these in the first episode, but it's just a normal walking around outfit.
Yeah, I was also, I don't know if I saw there was someone who had like, I don't know if that was what you meant with the miniskirt, but someone had like a uniform that was just like extra long.
Ooh, like a long skirt?
Yeah, it like kind of like a dress, like that it was like, it was their uniform, but it just went down like further and didn't have any pants.
Cool. I'm going to share this with you. I'll drop it in the chat.
Yeah, maybe I could find mine as well so that we can compare.
Yes.
But I do like when they have like weird fashion, and I like the uniforms here. Like a lot of times I feel like, uniforms will look really old-fashioned. If there is like this kind of stylish uniforms, they will look weird. But I think that these ones still look good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I think it zips up the back. Some of the uniforms zip up the front. I noticed Kaczynski's did. On The Greatest Generation, they make this distinction between front zips and back zips.
What does it mean then?
I think the more expensive ones are the back zips, and so they give them to the main characters in later seasons.
Oh, okay. So it's just like kind of it's more expensive for the design, or
maybe just an updated design, but they kept all the old uniforms, so sometimes they'll stick them on an actor that has lines, and it's like, oh, that's a front zip.
That's funny. They shouldn't have zippers in the future. It should all be like some kind of clingy material, I feel like.
Yeah, like a Velcro that doesn't wear out.
Yeah.
I wish we had that now.
Oh yeah, now I got this other guy, but maybe that's the same. Oh no, I lost him. Maybe that was the same that you meant. He was like looking with his mouth open.
Yeah, he's got a bit of a John Cho look to him. In the next scene, they have to go to battle stations, and the guy's like, oh, Kaczynski, the traveler's like, yeah, we could use you, because he's all insecure now, because he thinks like I'm worthless. And the traveler's like, I will need Kaczynski for this next part.
Yeah,
and he's got
so
this look on his face of just like a little boy who fucked up and then was told that he has value.
Yeah. I was gonna say it was the same guy that I was thinking about that you sent.
Oh, good. So at about 39:40, there's this great quote from Troy, whose hair is on point in this one, by the way. She's got little beads and stuff up there. She says, "I feel such an abundance of well-being on the ship."
I feel such an abundance of well-being on the ship. It feels like quite wonderful.
It feels like quite wonderful. Oh, God.
Yeah, it would be nice if she has a birthday or something, and then they're like, okay, let's all feel, good thoughts towards her. She would enjoy it.
Ooh, I like that. Oh, man, that is good. I don't know if we ever get that.
But she didn't have any uniform on, did she? Talking about the clothes. She had different clothes.
No. So one of the innovations they had with this series is to have a counselor on the bridge, right? I think separate from just having her powers, the idea is that a wise captain would want to hear about the crew's overall mental health or well-being, because that'll come into play in a lot of situations.
Yeah.
So they have a counselor in Star Trek Discovery as well. I think they should have just had them on every ship, but, there's only so many crew spots on any given series.
But does it, I'm not sure what a counselor does. Is it like some kind of psychologist, or is it like...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so like they'll meet her and have sessions like normal, but then she also does bridge duty where she's sensing thoughts and all that, or emotions.
Yeah, I like that. So then she's not really part of the command structure, or is she still under his command?
So I believe she is a Starfleet officer, which makes her wearing casual clothes a little odd. They correct that eventually. But, because she has a rocking body, I think they wanted to show it off. There's this guy named Ron Berman. Is it Ron? Rick Berman, who was very powerful, like he's a producer, executive producer or something. Especially in later shows, he was putting women in jumpsuits or bodysuits left and right. But yeah, no, she at least becomes a command officer at one point. She commands the ship on one episode, at least. So the Traveler is doing his thing. They're flying back, more trippy visuals. But he starts to phase or look pained or something. And Wes holds his hand for a second. And it seems to rejuvenate his spirit.
Yeah, because they say it's not working. And then when Wes does that, it seems to improve.
Yeah, it's like just his care is enough to keep the Traveler going long enough to get the job done. And then he vanishes. And Wes and Kaczynski are bummed out. And we cut up to the bridge. And they arrive back home. They're going warp 1.5 like normal. And Geordi says something about a sleigh ride.
Warp 1.5, sir, which is what my instruments have read all along.
And our position reads exactly what it was before this sleigh ride began, sir.
Cease red alert.
Sleigh ride? Or whatever you want to call it, Data. I don't have a proper name for it.
So the Traveler is gone. And wherever the Traveler is gone, maybe he's returned to his own galaxy. Wherever, we wish him well. And this is when Riker orders Wes to the bridge. And he tentatively walks onto the bridge.
Ah, Wesley, come on the bridge. Move.
It's really, really cute. Picard goes over to Riker and he's like, well, I can't let him sit in the chair unless he's a bridge officer or something. Or unless he's an officer of some kind. And Wesley's like, oh, no, sir, please. And he's like, don't interrupt me, Wesley. Or he says, please don't interrupt me, Wesley. So he's softening a little bit. And then he does his captain's log looking away from Wesley. and he makes him a acting ensign.
So if there is command like this, is there also like the grunts or whatever? I don't know the difference.
So grunts were a common thing in the original Star Trek. They called them crewmen. They wore a different type of uniform. Roddenberry, when he brought it back, one of his weird rules was that everybody's an officer, which would never work in the military, right?
Yeah.
The whole point of being an officer is that you command enlisted.
Yeah.
But it's like there's no enlisted in this show.
I guess, I mean, it doesn't make sense, but we do have a lot of things where things age out, that. So maybe it's some kind of inflation where, everybody becomes an officer and then they just keep the titles, even though it doesn't mean the same thing as it did for us.
I almost wonder if it was like at a certain point in our development as a military, everybody will have professional skills, like, because they're mostly just communicating with computers.
Yeah.
And that maybe to be that competent, they have to go to Starfleet Academy and get the same training as any officer.
Yeah, I think that could make sense. And maybe there are other places in this universe where they actually do have other crew. But then at this kind of mission, everybody is either like an officer. But I mean, there are other workers, right? There are people who are like doing the cleaning or something.
Right. We never see cleaning robots, but it's the only way this shit could get done. Because, like I said, they don't have crewmen going around with a mop.
But they must have some kind of crew, right? I just feel like it's, I don't know. I mean, they have some kind of, I guess they could have computers for everything. But I was thinking like they have to have some kind of teachers or, for other
in
families.
The Saucer, it's like a small town, right? So they have specialists, they call them, that are botanists and geologists, teachers, like.
But maybe they are civilians, maybe.
Bartenders. They have a bartender named Guinan, and she gets to wear whatever she wants.
I like the idea if there was, if all of these were in the command structure and they're like, you are Captain Bartender.
Yes, Captain Bartender. Hell yeah. So the episode ends. Wesley gets to sit on the bridge, and it's just the cutest little thing. One of them is like, you want to tell your mom or bring her up here? And he's like, no, I just want to sit and bask for a minute. So cute.
How old do you think he's meant to be? Like, I don't know how old the actor is, but I also don't know how old is the character.
I believe he was 15 at the time. He goes to Starfleet Academy like the next year, a couple of years later, and then comes back. I believe the actor took some time off from the show. I may be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But I believe he wanted to get out of acting. Like he was in Stand By Me, a show I believe was called Travelers. Something else that I think was good. He had a very promising career ahead of him, but his home life was terrible. And I think as soon as he was 18, he just like got out of it. But he loved Star Trek so much and his Star Trek family that I think he went back to it. And then after Star Trek, he quit altogether. And then in the 2000s or 2010s, he started doing his board game show and blogging and all that. And then he came back for Star Trek Picard and Star Trek Prodigy. So he's not the best actor because obviously he was out of the game for a long time. But he does voice acting. Like he's still pretty good. But in the new shows, like he's up against some of the best actors in the business. So you can kind of tell he's a little bit rusty, but he's still great. I guess it is a bit of a spoiler for you that he survives the series, but most of them do.
Yeah, I can see, like, I don't know. It's always hard to say, like, what is a given and what is, more unexpected. But yeah, I would be surprised if a lot of people die. Maybe it would be something like, I don't know. I'm trying to think now. Like, just based on these 2 episodes, could there be an episode where some of these characters die? I'm not sure. It feels like it's a little bit, like you said about how there's not like these very extreme interpersonal conflicts, and I feel like that's also feels like part of that. Like if you're gonna have someone die, there should be part of some kind of interpersonal thing. It shouldn't just be like, oh, and they died, and like, I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but
gosh, I want to tell you all these secrets. All I can tell you is that something bad happens to a character, and it's in one of the worst episodes of all of Star Trek. But it ends up being so impactful and powerful later on that I feel like we can't possibly skip it. So if we keep covering Star Trek, just bear in mind that they won't all be winners.
Nah.
So what do you think? Is this process worth going for another round?
Yeah, I think it works. Do you have any thoughts about which episode we should do next?
Let's check out the list. Star Trek, TNG. Oh, it's just 2 episodes later. Is a bad one.
Okay.
But it features Wesley, and it's got some really important ideas in it. Hide and Q is sort of good, and it's got a really important thing that happens with Riker. Data lore, episode 13 is huge. Okay, I mentioned Picard plays Dixon Hill. There is a holodeck related episode called The Big Goodbye. It's not necessarily the greatest episode, but it is important to see, like, holodeck adventures. So I'll do a little research, and I'll ask some folks if they think Lonely Among Us, for example, is worth watching, or The Battle.
Yeah. And I guess, it could be okay to watch a bad one as well, but it depends on also what is more enjoyable.
I don't think we can skip Justice. I think it's so bad it's good. Whereas some of the episodes in seasons 1 and 2 are just kind of blah. So I'm trying to skip those.
Yeah, that's a good idea, to not have the ones that are just like nothing. But also I can imagine, like you talked about with the season 1, that it's still finding its footing a bit more, and then maybe it gets a little bit, in some series, it can be a little bit all over the place if there's they don't really have everything put down yet.
Okay, so the next one, Lonely Among Us, the teleplay is by DC Fontana, who is legendary in the history of Star Trek. First woman writer, I believe, in the show history. And she's great. But I think the story isn't just a great premise. And then Commander Data is playing Sherlock Holmes in a holodeck, and it's super annoying, and I almost think we should watch it, but I'll watch it again and see if it's worth it.
Yeah. And we could also do, depending on how, like, if you want me to watch something in between, I could also do that, just so that I know, if we don't want to go through it, scene by scene, I could just, if you're like, oh, this one is weird, I could, give it a try and see but maybe not too many, but, if there's like one episode in between, for example, I could watch one just to know it, if it's something that is like useful, to have with me.
Oh man, I'm reading the Wikipedia, and there's actors that are really important in Deep Space Nine that show up here for the first time.
Was that later, Deep Space Nine?
Yes, that was the next series after this one. It started in the early 90s, I believe.
Yeah, I think I watched a little bit of Deep Space Nine.
Some folks say it's the best series. It's like the most modern of the original series, in which, like, there was an arc to each season, and like the episodes kind of flowed together. rather than with this. This was designed for syndication, so you can watch any episode at any time and don't really miss much. Oh, apparently Will Wheaton, who plays Wesley, didn't love the next episode, Lonely Among Us. So I'll check that. If we don't do that one, we definitely will do Justice, in which Wesley falls into a bush and is facing execution.
Aye.
All right, folks. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Sophia, for joining me once again. Do you have any final thoughts? Anything we didn't get to?
No, I think we got to everything of this episode. So, no, not really.
Do you have any predictions as to why I wanted you to watch this one?
I mean, I guess I could see the Traveler returning, and I was also thinking that there is some character development, like with Wesley becoming part of the crew. So I could see that both of these reasons. Other than that, I'm not sure. Could it be something else? I think that was the two main things, unless this other guy comes back and he's just like, I am back
Kaczynski?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think his performance was a little big. I don't know if he makes the callback.
Yeah.
Well, yes, thanks for listening. If folks want to contact us, they can do that at greatandsecretknowledge@gmail.com. You can find me all over the internet at El Jefe Tacoma. Listen to my show, Shattered Worlds RPG, and Everything is Awesome, and watch my live stream every other Sunday on Twitch at 6:30 Pacific Daylight Time. That is, right now we're playing a D&D sort of post-apocalyptic fantasy show. And we just did a one-off where I played Space Kings, a game designed by Kevin Cole. And you play with like a deck of cards. It's really fun. It's a really easy game. It's reasonably priced if you want to get into tabletop role-playing games. It's super easy to get into and start. And anyway, I did a sort of Doctor Who ripoff pastiche, and it was so much fun. So find all those episodes are archived at youtube.com/Omniversal Escapades, or watch it on the day, twitch.tv/Omniversal Escapades. Oh, like our Facebook page and rate, review, subscribe on all your podcatchers. Tell your friends. Yeah. Next time, more Star Trek. Stay tuned. How do we end these? Oh, I guess a quote. I don't have any quotes written out, so maybe just... What do you say in Swedish for goodbye?
You can say hej då.
Hej då?
Yes.
A huge thanks to James Lark of jameslark.co.uk for providing our wonderful theme song. Thank you, James.
Until next time, this is Captain Richardson signing off. That's terrible. Let's not do that ever again.
Maybe I should do some kind of like, it would be funny to do some Star Trek quote, but in Swedish. But I don't know. I don't have any.
Yeah, look for that for next time.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a good one.
Yeah, or like doing some kind of outro quote, but it's like in Swedish. That would be fun.
Yeah.
Sounds like nonsense to me.